Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining me here again today at Re-Written Vintage Homestead. And how you guys doing? I mean, I've been doing good, don't you think? It's been months since I have gotten upset about anything. I've been preserving food. I did the Every Bit Counts challenge. I've been cleaning. I have been gardening and cleaning out the summer garden. So, you know, I've been good, but I'm sorry. I can't keep my mouth shut about this one because it's going to affect all of us. And it's about our trucking system, and it's about the Truckers Union. So let's talk about it. The American Trucking Association testified before the House this week. And it was very interesting watching these politicians act like they know what they were talking about, right? Because they've never driven a truck. They've never been behind the wheel of a semi. So who are they to tell the trucking industry how they should or shouldn't operate? It's like the same thing. They've never farmed. They've never been on farm machinery. So how can you possibly tell farmers how they should operate? But they do, don't they? Yes, they do. Well, so this all started because Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has decided that by 2025 or 2027, all semis need to be electric. All new semis. So trucking companies, if they have a truck go down on them, they have no choice but to buy electric. That's not too far away. You're talking anywhere from 4 to 7 years away. It's not very far away. So there's been a lot of controversy about that. You have your environmentalists saying that is fantastic. You know, that's just going to be great. It's one more thing that they're going to address. And then you have the trucking industry pointing out a whole lot of other obstacles to that. But regardless, let's say that it does happen, that our trucking industry has to go all electric, which my state here in the Midwest, one of the most liberal pukin' states in the United States, is wanting to do the same thing, and they probably will. But how is that going to affect us? So first of all, how does our food get to us? It gets to us by trucks. Yes, some comes by train, some comes by airplane, but over 90% of our food gets to us by the trucking industry. Thank you, truck drivers. So that's the first place to start. That's how it's going to affect us. That's where it comes from. Now, the Environmental and Energy Institute, which is a puking liberal organization that is pushing for these environmental standards, if you go to their website, you're going to see a huge, several pages full of why this is so important to address. Even though if you do some research, you see that the trucking industry has been absolutely fantastic in dealing with these people. And carbon emissions since the 80s, that was coming from semi trucks, have been cut like 80-90% since the 80s. And they say themselves, we want clean energy. We want to do what we can to make sure that this world is as nice for our kids as it has been for us. And believe us, we're trying everything. But this just isn't realistic right now. I don't even know if it'll be realistic in the future. So the Environmental and Energy Institute, after their 2.5 pages of why we should do this, they finally admit what some of the problems are going to be. The biggest semi fleet in the United States is owned by Pepsi. And it's a huge company, right? But 90% of trucking companies are privately owned, and they have less than 10 semis in a fleet. So the same people that have been pushing against Walmart for taking out the little man are the same people that are trying to push out the little trucking companies because they're not going to be able to afford this big change. So the Environmental and Energy Institute admits that electric semi-trucks currently cost up to 2.8 times more to purchase than diesel. Okay, and I did see from the American Trucking Association, it says if you would buy a clean diesel long-haul tractor semi, it typically costs in the range of $180,000 to $200,000 currently. If you would have to go buy a battery-operated one, they are anywhere upwards of $480,000. So that's $300,000 upcharge in cost prohibitive for the overwhelming majority of motor carriers. You know, these mom and pop trucking companies that aren't Pepsi, are they going to be able to, if they have a truck go down, are they going to be able to afford those terribly expensive semi trucks whose batteries, by the way, are made in my puking state, you know, one of the states that's letting China set up a factory here and paying them $500 billion in taxpayer money to do it. Yes, let's just let China in. You know, let's just let them in. We'll let them do. Now, where do you think the elements for these batteries? By the way, they weigh about 8,000 tons. They're massive. They're massive. So that also takes away from the load that the truckers are allowed to have on the roads. You guys see them go through those weigh stations. So less food on the truck to make way for the weight of the battery. So less food that gets to you and gets to me and gets to our stores. To make these massive 8,000-pound batteries, we would need lithium, cobalt, graphite. Now, let's remember, we're not allowed to dig for those things here because of the large environmental footprint that they might leave. It would take about 35 years, according to the estimates that I looked at, to get enough of those materials to put all of these semis on grid with these batteries by 2025, 2027. So if we're not allowed to get those materials here, we would have to get them from countries, you know, overseas, like the Congo. And we all know that they use child labor, and they're not regulated like we are here in the United States. So again, we're going to have slave labor, child labor, a huge environmental footprint to pacify these environmentalists and their electrical semi batteries and batteries for electrical cars. Anytime you're on our nation's highways and byways, you're on vacation, you see all these semi trucks up and down the road. They can pull into any gas station right now at any time and fuel up and drive another 1,200 miles. If they have to switch to electric batteries, they can only go about 500 miles at a time, and then it will take them 10 hours to charge up. And even then, it's being recommended they only charge up 70 to 90%. Yeah, let's talk about some of the stories that have happened so far. So one trucking company tried to electrify 30 trucks at a terminal in Joliet, Illinois. Local officials shut them down because they said they would draw more electricity than is needed to power the entire city. A California company tried to electrify 12 forklifts. Now, these weren't semis, these were forklifts. Local power utilities told them that it was not possible. They don't have the infrastructure to take care of that many electric forklifts. Since the weight of these batteries will reduce the payload that truckers can put on their semis at one time, you're going to have more and more and more trucks on the road because they're going to have so much of a load they need to get to a certain destination. So they're going to have to go drop that off, come back, drop that off, come back, hire more trucks, drop that off. So we're going to have more congestion on the roads than what we do now and more carbon emissions. This is what seems so ridiculous to me, is when politics gets into our way of life. So these politicians say all of these semi trucks have to be electric by a certain date. So they've absolutely taken out choice. I'm a trucking company with 10 or fewer trucks. I'm privately owned. I can't afford those electric vehicles, so I have to go out of business. You've taken away my choice. I know as a consumer, I cannot afford an electric, what do they call Tesla? A $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 Tesla, maybe more than that, I don't know. But I know I can't afford it. I also don't have the time to sit at a charging station either. But they've taken away my choice. Now I don't have the choice. I'm not allowed to move freely around the country like I always have been able to, which is one of our rights as American citizens. And that's one of the rights they're trying to take away from you, is your ability to move around the country freely. And this is a good way to do it by claiming it's for the environment. So all of these new rules, new laws that are supposedly for the environment, they drive me crazy because they're so ironic, aren't they? Now let's look at windmills. Oh, they're beautiful. Oh, they provide clean energy. Well, they don't for me here. They go clear across the country. I can't get energy from the windmill that is down the road. It doesn't come to me. It goes clear across the country. And oh, by the way, several of them fell last month. And so the damage that was done to the soil around it. And have you heard about the damage that is happening to the livestock around them because of the high pitch? And to whales in the ocean that are beaching themselves now. That never happened before. In massive amounts. Nobody wants to talk about those things, but you know what? It's clean energy. So it's like pat yourself on the back for something and then destroy everything else. And it's the same way to me with these electric vehicles. They take away your freedom to move freely around the country because you can't afford them, but they mandate a law that says you're going to have them, which is going to reduce your food supply that is able to get to you. So, you know, pat yourself on the back. You did another good thing, but you're hurting your own American citizens. But isn't that the way they work? Let's let people come in over the border. Oh, let me tell you a story about my state. So in my puking state now, police officers are allowed to be here illegally. They're allowed to be undocumented, illegal immigrants, aliens. So these people who have come into this country illegally are now able to arrest people, arrest American citizens who are here legally. But you broke the law. But these people who have broke our nation's laws are the ones arresting us. How are we even living through this? I honestly don't know. I don't know. Over here, you're darn right, I have carbon emissions going up into the air when I burn my trash. But you know what? I'm keeping it out of the landfill, and I'm putting more oxygen in the air from the plants that I plant. I'm feeding my family because I don't know how long our government's going to be able to do it for us. So that's what I want you guys to think about. Thanks for letting me rant and rave today. It's been a long time since I have. And it feels really good. But we have to do something. And honestly, all we have is the power of the vote. And I'm telling you, even that is questionable these days. Because there is so much corruption going on both sides. That who knows if our votes even count anymore. But I can still talk for now, and I hope you guys will keep talking too. And let me know what you think about this subject. You may be all for it. Oh my goodness. Is that an airplane I hear? Can you imagine the carbon emissions that airplane is putting into the air? Yet all of these movie stars are going to fly private, and politicians, and tell us that we're not allowed to fly. So I guess I'll wrap this up by telling our trucking unions to keep up the good fight. Tell these people to kiss your whatever, your trailers. Kiss my trailer. I'm gonna, you know what? Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Thank you to our semi drivers. God bless. Have a great week, everybody.